So welcome again, alive. This is on TikTok, but if you can and you missed any of it, please go to my YouTube page. Follow me on YouTube. There's a lot of lives that I've done about various things, including polyamory, Aubrey Marcus, feminine rage. Today we're going to talk about feminine rage isn't just about men, and this is something we're going to have to be very honest about, okay? I think it's important that we are as transparent as possible. Okay, so there was a time when, well, one of the things I always tell women is study, and I tell this to men too, but mostly women. I say study a harem for 45 minutes on YouTube. I've mentioned this many, many, many times, and I don't think people have actually taken my advice. Because the harems that were very prevalent during the Ottoman Empire, where women from all over the world, all over Europe, Asia, North Africa, so on, were being kidnapped and thrown into these systems where they were guarded by eunuchs, castrated men. Okay, usually they were castrated at a young age. Probably around 11. There's a great movie on that subject, by the way, on castrato, called Farinelli, on the last castrato. And so men used to, do that also to keep their voices for opera. It's completely off topic, but on topic. It's pretty brutal shit, okay, is my point. And Farinelli would actually give you an idea of what that would do to a man, okay, when he was a boy. It would give you kind of an idea, especially if you could really study harems, because I'm kind of getting sick of feminine rage going and attacking that we're only going after men. Because please remember, it was women also that were accusing women to be witches, to be stoned to death. It was women, not just men. And this is something we have to understand. This divide and conquer gender bullshit, the gender war, I'm so against it. I sound unhinged, and I get it. Because there's an unbalance and an unfairness to this point of view. I'm hearing people coming up with all kinds of feminine rage and using, I'm not going to mention anything because I don't want to point you to any one woman, because you have the right to your opinions. Of course you do. But my job as an elder is to give you other points of views. That's my job. What the hell am I doing here if I don't give you points of views that are, in my humble opinion, to be honest, not so humble, different ways of seeing things, and how women throughout the centuries harmed other women for their own survival, for the survival of their children. So I'll give you an example. So let's go to harems. So during the Ottoman Empire, women from the Celtic Isles, Gaul, all the way down probably to, I'm going to say until the 19th century. I'm not joking when I say that. 19th, 20th century. I'm not joking. In fact, we call it trafficking, but they're still harems to this day. But let's go back to the harems 200 years ago, just to give you a kind of a point, something to hang your hat on. So when a woman was brought into a harem, of course, her only concern was beauty and fertility. That was it. No one gave a shit about what she thought. If she was educated, no one cared. And the main goal for these women was to produce an heir, a son. And whoever brought forth the first son of a young king, sheik, caliph, whatever you want to call them. I forgot what they were called, actually, to be honest. Anyway, it could be caliph. It depended. The first woman who could do that would be technically she'd win status. She'd be the head wife, Kadin. And then after that, there would be infanticide and poisoning. I'm not joking. Because at that point, it was like, oh, fuck, she got pregnant first with a son, and I got to make sure that kid doesn't survive. I'm not joking. So it was a fucking brutal world. Brutal. Run by women, run by elder women, run by elder mothers who would politically influence their sons, their leaders, the head sons, who would inherit the crown, the throne, whatever you want to call it. And they wanted to also control who would be the head Kadin, the head wife. And so they were involved in infanticide. I'm not joking. It's fucking unhinged. Unhinged shit. It's very dangerous to live in a harem. Very, very dangerous. The best thing you could do was just, try to sit in the background and become a concubine. That was it. That was probably the safest thing you could do, is just try to, not be noticed. And hope to God no one thought you were a threat. So when we talk about feminine rage, let's fucking be fair. It's not all men. And I refuse to allow that in my realm to continue as the war cry of women, because it's unfair. And as I saw women in this when my mom was a young woman in the 1960s, very young woman, and the competition of weight, sensuality, beauty. This was still a time when women in America in particular could not afford or be allowed to get a loan. They weren't allowed to own property. They weren't allowed to inherit property. I'm not joking when I say that. Like, if there was a mortgage in play and the husband died, they were kind of fucked. And so, and I know this for a fact because my husband's mother, when her husband left her, the mortgage was under his name. This was like 1972. The mortgage was under his name, and she acted like him, sending the mortgage payments and working 2 jobs, never letting them know he had left the house. Okay? And it wasn't until, I think, 1977, when a woman was first allowed to have a credit card. So, yeah, that's definitely toxic patriarchy. But today we have women who are in the Mormon system, who are in various, orthodox, severe religious, dogmatic belief systems, in oppressing young women, oppressing them, lobotomizing their passions. There's some women doing that. Women also are known. I mean, there's great things about women, don't get me wrong, but I'm going to talk shit about women for a minute because I want us to fucking get some sense here. Because I did talk about female rage. I did a whole video on feminine rage. I kicked the shit out of the masculine, so don't worry about it, okay? I handle my business. Don't worry about it. If you want to watch that video, it's up there. Just scroll up on YouTube. But we are going to talk about toxic women because we better. And one of the things I've noticed in the work I do over the years, over the decades, is that women will take their rage of their ex on their sons, on their children, on these little boys, these 3-year-old boys, these 4-year-old boys. You're just like your father. You're a loser. You're nothing. You'll never accomplish. These are women doing that to fucking their own sons because they're angry at their exes. But also what women don't talk about, and this is serious shit, is that when women get older and a young girl is burgeoning, she's a maiden, she's a nymph, she's beautiful, she's gorgeous. She's 14, 15, 16, 17. She will compete. Not all women do that, thank fucking God, but a lot of women do. They compete with their daughters. They compete with their daughters. And they're passive aggressive. Oh, you're really going to wear that dress? Maybe when you lose, maybe if you lose 7 pounds, it looks like you have a little punch. It sounds, you just have a little bra fat. Maybe if you just lose a little, like maybe 10 pounds, like red, red. The woman won't tell her daughter that she's stunning in red. That actually, that little pouch, that little, boop on her belly, that little fupa is absolutely sexy as fuck. It's beautiful. And so I think we need to stop getting on this bandwagon of gender wars. Because right now we have sacred masculines rising from the ashes of their own dark night of the soul. And if we keep promoting feminine rage the way we are going to castrate the energy of this rising energy of the masculine. All right? And this is serious. And this is by design. And this is psyop shit that's been going on for over 3,000 years. Definitely, the Abrahamic religions have done their fucking work on the collective divide and conquer of gender, creating the gender wars. And there's never... Now, have men been fucked up to women? Absolutely. But don't forget, the Knights Templars honored Mary of Magdalena. The Knights Templars, one of the great churches ever built. It's a cathedral. It's called the Cathedral of Chartres, which is an homage using sacred geometry to the blue bandana or to the black bandana, however you want to see it. And the black Madonna is the Madonna that has been secreted away. But not just Mother Mary, but also Mary of Magdalena and the Grail and the secret of this divine marriage. Those were men. They were warrior monks. Maybe some of them have mistresses, beloveds, I don't know. Probably. I wouldn't be surprised. They came from the East and learned how to bathe and learn the magic of perfumes. And they came back from Jerusalem with all this magic, all this understanding, all this awakening. In fact, a lot of the people that came back from the Crusades and went into Europe brought bathing, public bathing, which the Catholic Church decided was sinful and shut down all the, this is just off topic, but on topic, where women and men were bathing nude together, butt naked, together. I think it lasted 75 to 100 years, thereabouts. I could be wrong. Correct me if I am. But anyway, so they were bathing together, public bathing houses in the Dark Ages, what they call the Dark Ages. And suddenly they decided, of course, always, trust the Catholic Church, to shut it down. And suddenly the Black Plague came on its heels, like soon after. So let's try to modulate. Let's try to balance the concept of the feminine rage to also include the toxic matriarchy that supported our oppression by the toxic patriarchy. I think it would be a better approach, and certainly a more fair approach. You know what I'm saying? Let me read some of your comments if you don't mind. Hang on, let me stop here for a minute. And that's why I did these warrior Amazon women, by the way. I have a passion for Amazon. Let me see what... Okay, for some reason you were blocked, and I don't know why. Okay, let me see what's going on. Let's read. Let me read their comments, okay? Bear with me. And if I miss your comment, please, if you don't mind typing it again. I really want to hear what you have to say. It's important to me. Where the hell are you? The illusion of division conditioned into a fractal. Yes. Religion, in a way, more than we were taught, must seek to find the truth of our real existence. In my family, the moms would compete with their daughters. It stopped with me. Oh, congratulations. Congratulations. That's awesome. To be honest with me, my mother competed with me. It was unhinged. But her thing was weight, like losing weight, being skinny, because this was, for her, it was she was a young woman during the Twiggy era. And, bulimia was massive. Bulimia was crazy. Our neighbor died of bulimia. I'm not kidding. It would have been like 1966. Yeah. And, it was normal to eat, half a can of tuna, one boiled egg and mayo. And that was it. Maybe a radish or two. I'm actually not being funny. And, eating, scarfing on pasta and, releasing it back. And this was so common. It was crazy. I remember going to Hong Kong when I was 14. I mention this quite often. And some of my girlfriends from my classroom had found a hut that was selling H. And they were saying, oh my God, we're all losing weight. It's so easy. Tony, come down. And it's so cool. It makes you feel really good. And you'll lose all this weight. And you won't be hungry. And they were taking H. They were 14. They were just kids. So the pursuit to look a certain way, to weigh something. Also, it was the days when models would lie. They'd be 5'10", and they would say they were 110 pounds. Now, some of them were 110 pounds at 5'10", but some of them were lying. They were 145 pounds and 5'10". And they looked fabulous. There was nothing wrong. So people were looking at scale and not how they looked in the mirror. And so this created competition with women. And it was always about competing for the male gaze. And it was, I think it was fucking exhausting. Absolutely fucking exhausting. And as women age, they saw younger versions coming up, and there was massive resentment and anger. And so you'll see that. You still see this being played out, by the way. And so you'll see that. You still see this being played out, by the way. And in particular, what I'm seeing played out that's really, really concerning me is the way women are being the shit out of, and I mean emotionally, probably physically, spiritually, the boys they're raising from men who are MIA. That needs to stop. And I call women out on that. If I do, I call them out. If I hear that kind of, I'm like, no. Go get yourself a boxing bag. Go take kickboxing, but don't fucking take it out on your son. And this creates men who hate their mother, which then creates men who are misogynist, incel, and fucked up. It's like, and then women blame men for being assholes, not realizing that some of these men were boys raised by very toxic mothers. Let's just be honest. Let's just understand what the fuck's going on here. And this is a concern. This is a concern. I absolutely was an unconscious agent of patriarchy. We all have been. I've been there. Okay? I've been there trying to figure out how. I'm not saying I haven't. I'm just trying to figure out to come up with an an example. Okay, I'll give you an example. I used to check out girls with my male friends. That is an unconscious, but yet I hated being checked out by men. Isn't that weird? Like I was like 17, 18. I wanted to be cool. I was like more of a tomboy. And so I hated when men whistled, catcalled. I would cross the street, okay? I would try to avoid construction sites, shit like that, right? It was the worst thing I could go through. And it started when I was like, you won't believe it. It started when I was 10, okay? So, but then I would just hang out at the beach. And yeah, and I would, it got twisted. And then I ended up resenting men. By the time I was 19, 20, I really resented men to such a point, and thank God I met my beloved, my high-level soulmate. And I remember him saying, I don't even want to say it to you what I used to do. It was really fucking wild. I was born with big tatas, okay? And men would always look at my tatas, not my eyes. And so I started getting into the habit when I was 19, 20 years old to look at their crotch, their jeans. And I would look at it and then raise my eyes to them, massive eye contact, and raise an eyebrow and then grin. They'd get flushed. It was like I was doing it back to them. And I realized how fucked up that was. So I got out of that habit, obviously, because my beloved was saying, what are you fucking doing? And I was like, I don't know. He goes, you don't like men, do you? And I go, I think I'm having an issue with men. I am. He was a very, very, very good man. He had other problems because he had been molested. And we were the same age. And he had some addictions. And long story short, it was over the years that we raised each other out of these weird loops, okay? But ultimately, you got to kind of like look. I gossiped about other girls, joined in the snide remarks. Even that is a function of division. Absolutely. When you say, oh, she's a slut, she's wearing that, that's absolutely fucked up. Like, it's fucked up. So we have to realize that when you are a nymph, when you're a young girl, you're gonna show off your wares because it's all brand new stuff. You're so excited, your legs, your thighs, suddenly you're, some girls like the attention, some don't, but we cannot judge them. As elders, we have to support these beautiful young women, and we want to make sure that they know how to handle themselves so they're safe. That's really the main thing. Everything else is absolutely normal. We've all done it. We've all, you know, dressed sexy, wanted the attention, where we were pursuing our worth through the male gaze. Some of us, maybe that's not your truth, but I know it was my sexy, wanted the attention, where we were pursuing our worth through the male gaze. Some of us, maybe that's not your truth, but I know it was my truth. It was many people's truth. And then, of course, thank God you get out of that fucking habit quick enough. And so the feminine rage is it's actually sad to me because it really does encompass the mothers, the grandmothers. Because you see, also you have to realize you have mothers in the 60s. You were seeing the mothers of, say, my mother and her mother. Her mother would, the mothers of, say, my mother and her mother. Her mother would have seen my mother marry who she wanted, have sex with who she wanted. But my grandmother was in an arranged marriage in France, okay? My grandmother was the last arranged marriage in our family. That means that the only man she ever knew my grandmother was the last arranged marriage in our family. That means that the only man she ever knew was that man, my grandfather. And so she got to see how other women live with a sense of freedom sexually, doing what they wanted, dressing how they wanted. And she never got to do that. So she, in her case, she didn't really resent it so much in her case, but I could see how women would have. What she did is she lobotomized her sexuality. She lobotomized herself completely, and she became almost asexual. I'd say that. That's what happened. So that to me is sad. But let me see, what else are you saying? Yeah. So gossiping. That was the one in my family. The moms would compete with their daughters. It stopped with me. Feminine energy rose first so we could be fierce and tender. It's the cradle that empowers. Yeah. So I feel like we need to have those discussions. We need to be fair. We need to be balanced with how we see men. There are a lot of men that are fucked up. You will not hear me argue that point. There's no problem there. There are a lot of men that are absolutely toxic as fuck. Okay? But their daughters and protect their daughters and everyone else's daughters. They don't have these weird sexual hang-ups and desires, Anyway, I just thought I'd jump in and share that with you. Like I said, it's a quick live. I want to thank you so much for being here. So much love. I'll upload this on YouTube. Please follow me on YouTube. My handle there is Sacred Intimacy Tarot. And please look at my videos. I did a few on polyamory, the breakdown of sacred sexuality, what a true tantra is. Please follow me on YouTube, okay? And if you don't follow me on TikTok, follow me as well. But a lot of the pretty extensive content on, say, Aubrey Marcus, the toxic masculine, the new age movement that is just, blindsiding us with their fucking bullshit. Hopefully you'll enjoy it there, okay? Sending you much love on your journey.